All right, if I could have your attention, we're going to kick off our first media availability of the morning for Sunday's Cobalt 400 here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Joined by Chris Buescher, driver of the number 37 Chevrolet for JTG Daugherty Racing. Last year, Chris became one of 3 rookies to ever make the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. 2 races into a new team this year. Kind of talk about how that transition's gone for you.
Yeah, the transition, it's not really that early. I don't know why I can't talk, but transition's been good. Everybody over at JTG Daugherty has been awesome. Daytona, we had a car that drafted really well and did not have the single car speed that we would like, but at the end of the day, it did what it needed to in the race, and then just caught up in one of the accidents there. So we didn't get the finish to show it, but AJ ran extremely well. And then Atlanta was a race where we learned a bunch of stuff. We got a couple little things that we're gonna dial in, just from a feel standpoint. Trying to get used to something a little bit different. So we got that all taken care of, or best we know how for right now, and come out to Vegas here and see how it all applies. But excited to be out here for our West Coast swing. This is a fast racetrack here, and we'll see how everything comes together. But I think it's been pretty good so far.
Exciting weekend for you this weekend as well, with the new look, some of the activation going on around with that. Can you kind of elaborate on what you've got going on this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. We got Natty Light on the car for Vegas this weekend. Can't miss a car, blue, white, and plenty of pink on it. It looked red in the renderings, but it's a cool deal to have a natural light on board, as well as Barstool Sports. Just a good fit for us. Something that worked out really well, and we're right in natural light's demographic, and they say Texas is one of their biggest markets as well. So I got to pass it all on to friends back home, but. Just an exciting deal. The car, like I said, it came out looking excellent. Hopefully it's fast, and we get to victory lane. They said they got plenty of beer to spray, so there's a little bit of added pressure there.
Perfect. With that, we'll open it up to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll bring a wireless mic to you. We'll start with Jim here, then we'll go to Jeff.
Jim Utter, motorsport.com. This might be somewhat difficult for you to answer since you just arrived at JTG, but do you feel like your team is going through any sort of growing pains, as this is their initial attempt at expanding beyond one team?
I don't know if it's anything that you wouldn't expect. It's a matter of hiring in, a ton of new people, and just getting everything blending in as quickly as possible. It's a lot, for a whole nother team to be brought in and hired. And I think Ernie said that they interviewed over 100 people during the process of trying to figure out what 30 or 40 to hire. So they definitely did their due diligence to make sure that we got the best people coming in, so that we're prepared to hit the ground running. And I think they've done a great job with that. We have a good team. Everybody gets along really well. Everybody works hard together, and there's no real issues. There's no egos that we're having to fight between either team and any of that situation. It's just it's about as smooth as you could ask it to go, really. And I think everybody's been really pleased with how it has come together in a rather short period of time. Especially considering the fact that most people had to start after the new year. Once they were out of their current contracts, wherever the situation may have been. But it gives you a late start on the year, and for that being the situation, I think we've done a great job with it. So the normal, but nothing outside of that. It's coming along really well.
We'll kick it over to Jeff.
Hey Chris, Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. I'm wondering about your Barstool partnership this weekend. Are you much of a consumer of Barstool content? Are you familiar with them a lot? And do you think they're going to make you squirm with some of their questions and stuff to you?
Yes is the short answer. I'm a little worried about some of the stuff that we got going on for the weekend. I'm going to try and keep it as politically correct as I can for my sake, I guess. But It's going to be a good time regardless. They're coming out for the race weekend, part of their Natty Light tour here, and they've been talking to a handful of our pit crew members as well, and they're pretty excited to be interviewed. And I think I don't know, they might not have to be as politically correct as me, so their answers might be more fun to some of the interviews, but it's bound to be a good time. We got to meet them down in Daytona briefly. And so now, everybody coming out here, there'll be going to be a lot of people out here for this event and for our Barstool Sports Natty Light partnership there. So, yeah, we're excited about it, but I'm going to have to tiptoe a little bit, I believe.
Go ahead.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Chris, last week we saw in the stages, I think it was even stage 2, where crew chiefs were making their guys wear, look, man, one spot you could get 10th. And then we saw, fighting for, I think, 3rd or 4th place with 3 or 4 cars really going at it. Do you think we'll see more of that? And are you guys really, do you think as a whole the drivers are centered in on, I really want to grab points wherever I can get them in those stages?
Yeah, I think when everything was announced, I think the opinion was they were bonus points, and that you still needed to worry about into the race and make sure you had those big points, and that it wouldn't be as big a swing as it is. But I think we realized really quickly, like the truck and Xfinity race at Daytona, when you win 2 segments and get crashed out and you're still 5th in points at the end of the weekend, everybody kind of took notes and said that those bonus points are worth a lot more than I think we really wanted to give them credit for. And so yes, I think you're going to see a lot more of that, especially as we start getting closer to Richmond in our playoffs. I feel like it's a situation where and like you said, if you're running 11th and you can get some bonus points and they tell you, hey, we need you to run a little bit harder for the next 10 laps, then yes, you need to go after it. And if you're running, in the top 5 and you're around 2 cars and you think you can get 2 more spots, then yeah, you're probably going to run a little harder. It's at the same time you got to make sure that you're there at the end. I mean, the big points are still at the end. Race wins are still what are going to matter the most. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of different strategies, a lot of new stress caused by these segments for our races every week.
Go over here to Joe.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com. Chris, I don't think you got a speeding penalty in Atlanta, but I think AJ did, and obviously a bunch of other people did. Are you concerned about the new timing zones here and going forward? Why is it becoming so challenging?
I'm not concerned about them. It's it leaves a lot less room to try and cheat the larger segments or larger gaps that we had before the added lines. So, I never really fully took advantage of that. I was just trying to make sure I wasn't speeding at all. And so, now that they've added more lines, it hasn't changed much for me, but I know for a lot of drivers that were really maxing out their pit road speeds and able to get that little jump of speed before getting to their box or leaving, they've had to throttle back a little bit. But, the Atlanta thing, Trent and DK told me very early on before we ever made a stop, they said you need to be careful. They've already busted 4 or 5 guys for speeding, and that they've been on it. And so we kind of just we backed off one light on our dash and made sure that we didn't get caught speeding. And the way, for me, it's one speeding penalty will take away any progress that 49.5 miles an hour versus 49 miles an hour on pit road will have gained you throughout a race. So, yeah, you gotta max it out, but try and, for me, look at the bigger picture and make sure that we don't have a speeding penalty. And I think that's, for me, that's what I try and do there. So I'm not worried about the extra lines here.
Great. Any additional questions? Right up here.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Sorry I got in here late, so I apologize if this has already been asked. But your career path really hasn't gone any way how you expected it. After winning the championship with Roush, we all just kind of assumed you'd be one of the Cup drivers over there, but you bounced to front row, now to JTG. What's been the difference, just in philosophy and just the way the different teams do things that you've noticed so far?
Yeah, it is interesting just going from from a place that was really all I knew, all the way back through ARCA days and coming up through Xfinity, and for me it's been an eye opener, and I've learned a lot during the process. So I really like where I'm at right now. I really enjoy being over at JTG Daugherty. Absolutely excellent people. A very tight family atmosphere, and it is nice. It's reminds you more of the short track Saturday night racing when you had friends and family coming over to help in the garage before a race weekend. And so for me, it's been a really good time. We have I think 12 or 17 or something different fire suits for the year, and so we are going to be extremely busy. But at the same time, it's fun. Everything that we've done so far has been a good time. It's been enjoyable, and it doesn't feel like you're doing extra work. It just feels like making sure that we can do everything we can to be able to take cars to racetrack and be competitive and have new colors on the sides every weekend.
Any additional questions for Chris? Okay, great. Thank you, Chris, for coming in, and good luck this weekend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to roll along into our next media availability. We're now joined by Matt Kenseth, driver of the number 20 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. Matt has 3 wins here at Las Vegas, which are second most in track history, and coming off of a third-place finish last weekend at Atlanta, another intermediate track. Kind of talk about that momentum you have going into this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked coming here to Las Vegas. We ran pretty well last year. We finished very poorly, but we ran pretty well. So tested here in January. Not sure how much we learned, but it never hurts. So looking forward to getting out there today with this reduced downforce and see what it's like here.
All right, we're going to open the floor to questions. Please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation. We'll start over here with Woody.
Woody Kane with MRN. First of all, happy birthday. And I was curious about, after seeing it for a couple of weeks now, the stage racing, if you think it'll play out any different at another intermediate track, or if Atlanta was such an apples and oranges comparison that it might not be the same.
Well, the real answer is I just don't know. I mean, obviously Daytona is very unique. Atlanta, I think I was a lap down for both the stages, so I wasn't really a factor or really part of that. I know they ran green, and you got to have tires there, so you couldn't really get too far off sequence to try to do much different there. So it might be different at tracks like this. I think at every track it'll probably be, everybody's line of thinking will probably be, a little bit different.
We'll move to the middle here for Mark.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Just to sort of follow up on that, Matt, it seems after Daytona, as Chris Buescher was talking, some drivers talking with more emphasis on the points in the stages because they saw a guy crash out and still be, fifth in points as far as in the truck race. And last week at Atlanta in stage 2, there was a lot of talk among the crew chiefs to the drivers. One was for a battle for 10th, like get up there, you got one spot, and we get a point. Another was, I think, for 3rd or 4th. Are these points going to be more valuable than, or are you seeing them to be more valuable than when you started the process or first looked at this segment racing?
Well, I think they're always valuable, especially since they're kind of rewarding the top 10 in points after 26 weeks. Obviously, you want to collect every single point that you can collect, but like I said, I wasn't part of either one of those because we were lapped down from our speeding penalty and weren't back in there at that time. I think you want to be aware of where you are on laps, and obviously you're racing people hard to get those spots at the segments as well as the end of the race, but it's not as, I wish it was as easy as your crew chief saying, hey, you need 3 more spots and you're going to get that point. Oh, okay, I'll just go past those guys. And I wasn't planning on it. I was happy here. But so, I mean, man, it's so competitive. As you look down the lap times each and every week, you can see all the cars are so close to the same speed. It's just not that easy. So everybody's racing as hard as they can. But, yeah, for sure the points and your running order, after those 2 segments are more important than ever.
We'll move to the left here to Joe.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com. Matt, I know the first couple races haven't gone the way Joe Gibbs Racing would have liked. Any ideas why you guys, as a company, have gone off to a little bit of a slow start? And then also, if you could comment on the speeding penalties at Atlanta, and are you concerned about the extra timing lines here as well?
Well, I mean, man, you're only 2 weeks in, and really it's hard to count Daytona. I mean, everybody, it's so easy to get caught up in a wreck there, and like our wreck at Daytona doesn't really have anything to do with that. We're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, so there's just nothing you can do about that. I don't put a lot of stock in where you leave in the point standings after Daytona. I just never have, because it doesn't really have much to do with the rest of the season. Last week, and I don't know, Denny had mechanical failure. Not sure about Kyle. I thought we ran pretty well, really, the whole day. We just had those speeding penalties. As far as that, we knew the added segments. It's just you go through the segments pretty fast. When they're twice as long, even if you're not trying to cheat a segment or do something like that, if you look away for a second, your pit stall or whatever, and you get going a little bit, you got some room to slow down and correct, because they're time segments. Where now you went through them last weekend so fast, like if you ever did get one light over or whatever, there was no time to correct. But for us, we just had the stuff set too aggressively, and I think especially after they changed something at track, you just kind of got to start over and get a good baseline and err to the slow side, and then go from there for the next race.
Additional questions for Matt? All right, thank you, Matt, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're now joined by our Daytona 500 champion and hometown driver Kurt Busch, driver of the number 41 Monster Energy, Haas Automation Ford. Kurt, big weekend for you, obviously, returning to your hometown after winning the Daytona 500. Talk about how that experience has been for you.
It's always great to come back to Vegas and to see all the different people and places that are so familiar, and actually headed to one of the local Star Nurseries to do an autograph session on Saturday while the Xfinity race is going on. And so it's neat to call everybody and try to get dinners arranged and shows. And I got to go to, don't hold this against me, but my wife wanted to go to Backstreet Boys. So we went to go see them, and she danced around like a 14-year-old on Wednesday night. So it's been wonderful. Vegas always has the entertainment value of the restaurants, the shows, the hotels, gambling. The Pac-12 tournament is here, the Mountain West tournament, our big NASCAR not a triple header, but our big weekend out here at the track. The announcement of the second date. There's tons of energy around Vegas and the excitement. And it's fun to come back along with the Harley J. Earl Trophy from Daytona. I took it to my high school yesterday, and it was great. We did a spirit pep rally day for all of the Durango High School Trailblazers. So that was a lot of fun to go and relive some of the memories from high school.
Awesome. With that, we'll open it up to questions. Please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation, and we'll get a wireless mic over to you. We'll start with Joe.
Joe Menzer, FoxSports.com. Hey, Kurt. Ford obviously is off to a terrific start this year. Could you talk a little bit about why you think Ford as a company has been so fast out of the gate, and also with all the speeding penalties in Atlanta, are you worried about the new timing lines here at Vegas, and how come that has become so challenging?
When we made the announcement that we were switching to Ford last year, it came with extra meetings and longer driver debriefs, because we were looking at blueprints and different front-end geometry changes because of the Doug Yates' engines and how they're built slightly different with where the pulleys are and the way the belt serpentine system works, as well as the pressurized system versus unpressurized. So a lot of extra work had to go into switching our cars over to Ford. And when you roll up your sleeves with a group of racers like we have at Stewart-Haas Racing, it allowed us to go over the car with a finer tooth comb, and we looked at every area. You know, when you're changing suspension components around and you have great Haas CNC machines to make these pieces, you can go through version A, B, and C and get a lot of work done quickly. And I'll tell you though, it was a full-on effort to get these cars switched over, but I love the way that we went over them in extra detail. And Tony Gibson is a master at the restrictor plate races, and so his wisdom and expertise was distributed to the other teams. You know, Rodney Childers is great at the mile-and-a-half tracks, and so his lead for Atlanta and Vegas really kicked in. The way that the rest of the group chipped in to find all these areas, it's like each team took care of one specific project, and the four of us have worked together in a stronger fashion than we never have before. But I'll tell you, Doug Yates' power, I want to say, is slightly better than where we were. It just feels that way. The aerodynamic balance of the Ford has more distribution on one region of the car than another, and it feels better. You know, Tony Stewart being a full-time owner, Clint Boyer coming in with his ideas. We upgraded in all categories at Stewart-Haas, and so it's really neat to see everything come out of the box strong. And we still got to get through this West Coast run and get to Martinsville. And once we get past Martinsville, we'll evaluate where things are. You know, you just can't go off of 2 races. Let's give it 5, 6, or 7. And then with the speeding penalties, you know, last week was the first time we'd been to Atlanta with the shorter timing zones. Pit road timing zones used to be around 300 feet apart. Now they're 150 feet apart. And so when you're traveling at 45 miles per hour, 150 feet goes by really quick. And you have no time to give back any extra speed that you might have carried through that segment. So I have my lights, and the way they're set up is if I flicker red, I should be okay, but you're thinking in the back of your mind, oh no, I don't need to have any red anymore because the segments are so close. This weekend will be brutal because we've never had these timing lines here at Vegas, and then Vegas notoriously is difficult on speeders. So it's a matter of getting back to all these tracks with this new timing system, and we haven't been to Atlanta, we haven't been to Vegas, we haven't been to Fontana. But like Phoenix next week, we've been there in the fall last year, and so we'll have a better understanding this time around going back to Phoenix. So it's mainly the first time back at a track with the new timing segments.
We'll go to Mark, and then Woody, and then we'll come over here.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Before I get to my real question, I'm just curious, you talk about memories at your high school. What memories just sort of clicked in when you were at the high school the other day?
When the gymnasium was full, the kids were screaming and yelling and chanting our fight song, and it brought me back to the days of when our high school team was really good at basketball. We won the state title in '95 and '96, the last 2 years I was there. And what's even better is the high school principal, Nate Miller, he played on those teams. And so there was only the couple championship banners hanging on the gymnasium wall because our high school was new then. Now you should see it. There's banners of state championships in all categories in the high school gym. Like Ryan Ludwig, a friend of mine who played baseball for the St. Louis Cardinals, his number is retired in the rafters up there. It's just so neat to see the sports side of Durango High School so strong and producing such good results. And so that's why I made a donation to the high school for their athletic department of $5,000 to chip in and buy new things to keep their sports up to top levels.
Any of your old teachers around?
Yes, there were a few old teachers and a few students that I went to school with that became teachers. And it really hits you hard that teachers are really a group of heroes, and they're not talked about a lot on what they have to do every day to help deliver education to our youth and the commitment that it takes. I mean, I was worn out yesterday after a pep rally of high school kids. I mean, the energy that it takes to go and see all those kids and to shake hands, sign autographs, and to be around all that excitement, literally, it wore me out yesterday. So just a shout out to our teachers in the education system.
Okay, and I apologize for asking 3 questions, but the points as far as the segments are concerned, we saw over the radio in segment 2 last week, crew chiefs talking to their guy like, hey, 10th is right there for you, and another one was talking about, I think, a battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th, something like that. How big do you think these points are going to be, and how much focus is on these points right now in the segments?
It's very important. I think it will be a game changer once the months show up for who's going to get into the playoffs. And what I mean by that is those group of guys that haven't won before, and yet they've got those nice segment points that have helped them bump up in points. You know, last week we finished 7th, and I got 30 points. The guy behind me got 43 points because he did better in the segments. You know, Kevin Harvick, he should have won. He was speeding on pit road, but he got 48 points, and he finished 9th last week. I finished 7th and got 30. So he got 18 more points because he ran up front all day. That's exactly what this point system is meant to do. And when you get those stage wins, those carry with you all the way through the playoffs. And so when you have a bad race in one of the early rounds of the playoffs, your bonus points will get you out of that hole. So right now it's doing everything that the point system was meant to do, and that's to make everybody run hard and up front and gain points.
We'll go over here to Woody and then back to the left to Lee and Reed.
Woody Kane with MRN. You mentioned Phoenix a little while ago. I know you're a huge baseball fan, and spring training is coming up. If you're going to be able to take in any baseball, and just thoughts on Phoenix in general with the new package going back there and the announcement they just made about changing around the start-finish line and that type of thing with the upgrades.
Yeah, Phoenix has done a great job over the years of continuing to upgrade the facility, and the racing there I think is great on that flat 1 mile track. And with spring training in town, you know, our race, I hope to match up and go out to Mesa, Arizona, where the Cubs play. My assistant's trying to surprise me with a trip to go and meet up with the Cubs, and so I hope that it all comes together. You know, they're world champions, and I've been a Cubs fan my whole life. It would be great to go and just shake their hands and congratulate them on a job well done. And so we'll see if that matches up. But as far as the Phoenix race, the atmosphere there, and the changes that they're making, they're going all in. And it gives you this impression that Sperber, the track president, he's doing what he needs to do to position himself to be our year-end finale and to see his track host the final points race.
We'll go over here to Reed.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Kurt, I imagine from a hometown perspective, you're happy to see Las Vegas get a second race. On the other hand, from a playoff perspective, you're losing a track where you have 3 wins and, you know, a 1 mile flat track in favor of a track that you haven't won yet. So how do you view the trade-off overall?
For the city, absolutely. It's a huge win. And to listen to Chris Powell and to really digest what they had to go through to make it happen, we're going to have triple header here twice. That's big to have trucks on Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, Monster Energy Cup Series on Sunday. That's big. And then it's a playoff atmosphere in September. And it'll be a little warm, but we'll see how that plays out. But the way that this city continues to grow around sports, you know, there's an NHL team that's now here, and the Raiders continue to flirt with coming down here. You know, with the way that this town evolves, you see it as a win-win with the entertainment side and the sporting side. And to lose a date at New Hampshire, you know, I think that'll really push the New Englanders out hard for their July race, and there'll be much more support around their race then. I haven't won there in many years, so I'm okay. I'm okay with winning 3 times there early in my career. I haven't won there as of late, and so it doesn't matter wherever the date is. You have to be ready for it. And now when you have a springtime race at a track, such as Phoenix, Martinsville, Texas, Vegas now fits in this category. All those races are that much more important in the spring because they are playoff races in the fall.
We'll go to Lee.
LeeSpencerMotorsport.com. Because nobody in this room really probably knows what it feels like, what is it to come home to your hometown, though, to a hero's welcome? I mean, I can't even fathom what it must feel like when you walk in the room and get that kind of adulation.
I mean, it's humbling, and it's a time to reflect and thank those that have helped me over the years. You know, even before the Daytona win, I was coordinating an autograph session with my old car owner, my old sponsor here in Las Vegas at one of his star nurseries. And main reason being that it's going to be 81 degrees on Saturday. It's a beautiful day. It's one of the first warm weekends that the community can count on to go out and buy plants and shrubbery in their bushes and redo their yard. And I was like, yeah, let's go to Star Nursery. And now I have the Harley J. Earl along with me to show to all of his customers. It just makes you want to share because there's been so much given to me from this community. I just want to keep giving back.
And are you and Gibson strategizing the stages differently? Are you running them as races within races, even after seeing how, like Reed said, the points are just so important every stage going, even after the first 2 races?
Yeah, I mean, the majority of the points are still handed out at the end. 2/3 of our points are available when the checkered flag drops, not the green-white checkered. But, the second engineer, I saw him after the race, and he just kind of had the eyes wide open like, wow, we finished 7th, but we only got 30 points today. And we were racing those early stages differently than we would have normally raced. And Atlanta's different because it chews up the tires really bad. Vegas doesn't chew the tires up as much, but we'll see. It is a new, softer tire for this weekend. But tracks that chew up tires are going to be a lot of that movement like we saw at Atlanta. It'll be interesting. And then, Daytona, we all piled into each other after the after the second stage ended because a lot of guys stayed out on old tires. And the guys that finished well, they needed to come in and get tires. And so now you got guys on old tires versus new tires. And so that's what these stages were meant to do, was create the pit strategy movement and to create the let's gain points early in the race, and it won't be so bad at the end if we can't quite finish as strong at the end. But for me, I'm old school. I'm about going for the trophy. I want to stand there in victory lane and go, yep, I got the trophy, even if I got less points than the guy that finished 3rd.
We'll come to the middle here to Chris.
ChrisKnight, Kurt, I was just curious, with Las Vegas hosting triple headers next year, would you be interested in entertaining a Truck Series ride if you got an opportunity to do so?
Yeah, possibly. I haven't driven in the trucks in quite some time, even the Xfinity cars, but Vegas would do that for me. I would do it for Vegas to come out and try to run the triple header. So we'll see how it pans out. It might make more sense to do it next spring, and that way the focus once we come back for the playoffs in the fall of 2018 is just on the Cup car.
And we'll take our final question right over here.
Steve Richards of PRN. Kurt, I find it interesting that the Daytona trophy is in your hotel room. That's the first thing. Where's the trophy going around Las Vegas this weekend? What have you got planned for it?
Well, the trophy and the energy, the buzz and everything from Victory Lane and Daytona, I learned that there's only 2 trophies. They only make 2. You can't get replicas. And Gene Haas took his to Oxnard, California. It's at the Haas CNC headquarters. And mine, I wanted to give one to Monster. I wanted to buy one for Ford and give them one to put in their museum. And they're like, no, you can't get replicas. And so I just came up with the idea, similar to the Stanley Cup. We're just going to take it around all these different places. Earl is going to have his own identity. I think he's probably going to hit a blackjack table on Sunday night after the race. Watch out. He's going to bet all 500s because he's 500. We're just have fun with it. Go to the beach in L.A., go to the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. Ideas keep coming up. I'm going to give it to Monster for a week or 2. They can take it to the headquarters and do what they want with it. Ford has requested a day for me to go back to Dearborn, Michigan, along with the 24 Hours of Daytona winners from the Sports Car Series. And we'll all do a nice day up in Dearborn. Bring the trophy up there so it can hang out in Dearborn for a day. Whenever, however, whatever. We're just going to take it all around. And, yes, it's in my hotel room. It's about as easy as a stroller. It's a carrying case. It's got wheels, and you just throw it in the trunk and go. Got insurance on it, though.
All right, Kurt. Thanks for coming in, and have a good weekend here in Vegas, and good luck this weekend.
All right, thank you.
How much did you insure it for?
All right, we're now joined by our defending race winner here at Las Vegas, as well as the winner from last week at Atlanta, Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 2 Miller Lite Ford. Brad, carrying a lot of momentum into this weekend, just kind of talk about your outlook and your muffin.
My muffin had a hair in it. Let's stay away from that one. It's a little weird. Looking forward to, of course, getting on track here. Whenever you have, a race win the week prior, you have a lot of momentum and a lot of confidence, and that always seems to serve well. But coming to Las Vegas in general, Las Vegas is a track where we've really kind of hit on something the last few years, and looking forward to putting that into action along with the confidence from last week. So early season, things are off to a good start, and we're ready to keep on rolling.
All right, with that, we'll open it up to questions. Please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation, and we'll bring a wireless mic to you. We'll start with Joe.
Hey, Brad. Joe Medzer, FoxSports.com. Ford obviously is off to a great start. Not just yourself, but the new Stewart-Haas guys are doing fantastic. Could you talk a little bit about just how much momentum Ford is carrying into this race, and also could you talk about the speeding penalties, how challenging you think that might be with the new timing lines here at Vegas?
Yeah, it's great for Ford. They're putting a lot of time and money into the sport of NASCAR, and to be rewarded is something that you always want to see when someone makes an investment. So I'm happy for those guys. They've really brought in a strong leadership group that embraces motorsports with a passion from the very top with Mark Fields and Joe Heinrichs, and down the ladder with Raj Nair and Dave Perizak and Mark Brushbrook on the NASCAR side. So that's really showcased some results over the first 2 weeks of the year. But it's a big ship, and the investment was made probably a year or so prior with a lot of different things. And the most visible, of course, is bringing in Stewart-Haas Racing, but there's more to it than just that. But it's good to see the results, and it's a sign of reward for the investment. But we can't just take it for granted. We got to keep going, and we got to keep working and put in the efforts to go with it. So I think there's a right leadership team in place right now that really understands motorsports to continue to do so. So it's a good time to be aligned with Ford for sure. As far as the pit road speeding and that kind of stuff last week, it's going to continue to play out as a storyline. But I think that's one of those things where everybody just kind of learns the new boundary, and then they get settled in, and it kind of goes away.
Okay, we'll come over here to the right to Woody.
Woody came with MRN. Brad, I want to look ahead a little bit to Phoenix taking this new even lower downforce package there. I know Joey did the test for you guys there, but what are your thoughts on taking this package to that track, and your thoughts as well on putting the start-finish line after this on the dog leg area?
Well, it'll be really interesting to see the track when it's redone with the start-finish line. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I guess there's some smarter people than I that have been working on it. So. But Phoenix in general has been a track that I'm happy it's coming with a different car, because we haven't been very good there. It's been a track that we've struggled with, and we're hopeful that we'll hit on something new and better. But my teammate Joe Gaughan obviously won there last fall, which was really solid. He had a great day, and that race is super, super critical, specifically in the fall, to having a shot to win the championship. So. I think that going there, we need to have a strong race, a strong showing. We continue to run better as a team as NASCAR takes downforce off the cars, so I'm very optimistic we can do so. But that track has a lot of unique challenges that really makes it so much different than any place else we go, with the dog legs and the flat banking in one end and the wide corner on the other, and the asphalt there isn't like any other track we go to. So. It's a pretty big challenge, but one that we're going to have to step up to and deliver a win to make it to the next level.
We'll move to the middle here to Mark.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Brad, when the new stage format was announced, the drivers talked about how, we'd like to get some of those points. Now that we've run a couple of races, and we actually saw at Atlanta last week, teams fighting for 10th and teams fighting for 4th and 5th, maybe a little harder at the end stages than they would have normally. Have the points taken on more importance now that they've seen how things have begun to play out with this segment racing?
I mean, points are always going to be important. It's our own measuring stick as a team. We measure ourselves by how we're sitting in the points. And so we're always going to put a lot of emphasis on just that. But what I see personally right now is that, collecting these playoff bonus points is super, super critical for the back half of the season. And I think that kind of dominates a lot of teams thinking at these races, at least that they're really strong teams. But I also see opportunities. Looking at a race this weekend where Tire wear perhaps won't be nearly as significant as it was last week. I think you're going to see more strategy cards played. I think you're going to see the field mixed up a little bit more, and you're going to see guys who you haven't seen in a little while up towards the front at point in times in the races. So I think that makes it fun and interesting for all of us.
Do we have any additional questions? We'll go over here to Lee and then to Chris.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. Do you really believe that the stages will change the overall complexion of the intermediate tracks? Because, you know, for a long time, I mean, you're just, it's hit or miss. It can be really scintillating. You know, they've played with the car, they've played with the formats. Ultimately, doesn't the track also play a huge part in how exciting the action is?
Absolutely, Lee. The tracks are just as important as anything. When we race, what time, the grip levels, the tire combinations, the car sensitivities are all huge as to the excitement level that I think you're going to feel in a race. But you know, I think looking at the stages in general, it's an enhancement, but it's, you know, it's not a cure-all for everything that we want to make better in our sport. And I think, or I sense at least, that a lot of people within the garage understand that there's other areas that we can continue to work on. But I think this is the right step in general for all the tracks to make the racing more compelling and to make more moments matter for our fans. But I think we have to be careful labeling it as kind of the end-all, be-all, because I think there's still more work to do.
You think there's not? You think something like the Roval at Charlotte would be something that could just give us an alternative to another 1.5-mile track in the chase?
You know, it's interesting because, you know, 10, 15 years ago, road course racing was some of the least liked racing by the fans and the competitors in the sport. And now it's turned into some of the, you know, most appreciated racing. And I think that's part of the ebbs and flows of the sport over time. I think if we go down the path of more rovals and things like that, or road courses, I should say, that turn into rovals, I think 10 or 20 years from now we'll look back and say, oh, I missed all those mile-and-a-half races. So, you know, I think that's just part of how the sport flows. And, you know, I like outside-the-box opportunities. I think it's very critical for us that the schedule be freshened up, and those type of ideas accomplish that. So I'm supportive to ideas that freshen up the schedule and keep it new and exciting every year for tracks and for fans. But I'm, you know, a little careful to say that there's one specific idea that's going to be the answer, because I think it's more of a culture and mindset.
We'll come back to the middle to Chris.
Hey, Brad, Chris Knight, CatchFans.com. I was just curious from a truck series standpoint, and as an owner, are you happy, content with the move from New Hampshire to Las Vegas for part of the triple header in 2018?
You know, yes and no. It's cheaper for us as a truck series team for triple headers. So whatever cost there is to go out west compared to going up to Loudon will easily be offset by you know, the personnel and other costs that we're able to shed when we race out here on the West Coast by being able to run as a triple header. So, you know, I think it's kind of a net even in that way. But at the end of the day, if more fans attend and it's a bigger spotlight for the sport, then that's an overall gain that would offset any loss there would be financially. The most important thing that we can have for the sport is to have communities that embrace us, both with funding and with attendance. And this community has shown that it feels that way and that it wants us, and I think we have to embrace that.
Do we have any additional questions? All right, Brad, thank you for coming in, and
thank you.
Good luck this weekend.
Have a great day, guys. Hope to see you again.
All right, we're going to roll into our next media availability here. We've got two of our hometown drivers that are going to be competing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series Boyd Gaming 300 here at Las Vegas. You've got Brendan Gaughan, driver of the number 62 South Point Chevrolet, and Spencer Gallagher, driver of the number 23 Allegiant Travel Chevrolet. To the both of you, kind of talk about how it is to be competing at your hometown track this weekend.
It's something special, man. You know, growing up racing on the bull ring, every kid here's the big Cup motors going around the speedway, and that shortly becomes your dream to get out there and be able to get on the big track and compete with the big boys. So, to me, first Xfinity race in my hometown, it's a dream come true.
I mean, I've told the story over years and years. I was mad as hell when Ralph and Richie built this place because this was the start line of the Mint 400. I remember seeing the plans going, what are you doing? You're ruining my desert racetrack. And to be here 20 years later, to still be running here and still be doing it, it still has that same special feeling as it does for Spencer being in his first one. And it doesn't go away when it's your hometown, especially a town like Las Vegas where it's not North Carolina where it's everybody's race team's hometown. This is a unique deal for guys like Spencer and myself, and it's amazing how many young kids nowadays are coming out of this town and the talent that's being made here because of this speedway.
All right, with that, we'll open it up to questions. Please raise your hand, state your name and affiliation. We'll get a wireless mic over to you. Anybody?
Easy Media Center.
No.
Adventurous crowd this morning.
We'll go to Chris Knight here in the middle.
The good Lord.
That's next weekend. Or no, that's a couple weeks away in Auto Club. Looking ahead, we're going to Bristol, and it's a Dash for Cash race. And I was just looking for your thoughts, Brendan, on the Dash for Cash race and how much of a fun that's going to be for the Xfinity drivers at Bristol's.
I got to tell you, I haven't seen the format. Is it still heat raced? I'm sorry, and I apologize.
There's no heat racing.
So it's still staged?
Mm-hmm. Staged. Yes.
So stage 1, stage 2, top 4, top 2 in the first one, top 2 in the second one, and then the last run to the finish will be the 4 drivers for it. Okay, that's cool. I think that's unique. I definitely, I got to tell you, I said to the get-go to the media many, many times last year, see how it plays out before you say if you like the heat racing or not. And after watching the heat races play out, probably one of the bigger busts that we've done in a long time. And so it just didn't work out like everybody wanted. It did not make for the excitement, and it did not play out as NASCAR nor the drivers were hoping. So I'm excited that they revamped it, and that's what I do applaud NASCAR about nowadays. When they make bad decisions, they will quickly redo them, and when they make good ones, you got to tell them they made a good one. And that one was one that they tried, didn't work. So that doesn't bother me. That actually works well into the format that we have. And going to Bristol, that's a hell of a place for a freaking Dash for Cash race. That could be exciting.
Oh yeah, people are gonna get all kinds of crazy there.
Why do you like Bristol so much for a Dash for Cash race?
It's just different than you can do a lot more there. You can wreck a guy's day. You can, you're going to be in closer contact with somebody, closer quarters with somebody to put yourself in a position for that money, the stage wins, and for the eventually the $100,000 at the end. So, when you have a bigger track, you're spread out more. You have that Bristol track, you're very, very rarely spread out. You have a fighting chance to make an aggressive move to win $100,000, and in this sport, $100,000 goes a long way.
And last question, I know you were critical last year on the heat racing, one of the more critical drivers on the heat racing, but so far with the stages, do you like what you're seeing in the Xfinity Series?
I wasn't really critical of it. I started by saying, let's see how it goes. I mean, that was my main thing. Is I didn't. Well, no, I said once after the third one, I went, okay, this didn't look great, but it wasn't that I was critical of it. It's, hey, look, if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. But I wanted to see it. That's my main thing. I'm not one of these fools that loves to just criticize something before you ever see anything happen. And I said the same thing about the stage racing this year. I really did not expect the stages to work out the way they have. I did not expect it to make a big difference. I thought, we'll see how it goes. I like the volatility of the points. That was my main thing I said from the get-go. I love that you can gain so many more points or lose so many more points now than you used to. But at Daytona, it surprised the hell out of me. With 4 laps to go before the end of the one stage, I'm running 4th, single file, happy, just chilling, like, hey, we're gonna get to the end of this stage and survive and go on. And I looked in my mirror and I saw a freight train of 15 guys on the bottom that were racing for the stage win. I did not expect that. Last week at Atlanta, you saw me screw up royally in front of the frickin' leader, look like a complete moron, and almost wreck him, almost wreck my teammate, go through the grass. Thank God it hadn't rained, so I was able to skate through the grass without ripping the nose off it. That accident happened because I was racing to that caution because I knew it was coming. So, I mean, it definitely has changed the way that we race, that we approach it, and it's done more than I was really expecting. So, so far, I'm a fan of it.
We'll stay here in the middle.
This question's for Spencer. This is I'm Dick and Ware with the Motorsports Report. Spencer, you're a local guy. How did you start racing? What was your first thing? How'd you get into it? Was the folks behind you, family, friends, sisters, brothers? How'd you get into this insane industry?
Insane's the right word for it. I actually got started road racing legends on this very inner road course here, and for a long time I did it, for fun, race 3-4 times a year, go have fun with the buddies, and I was pursuing a career in the software industry up in San Francisco during the meantime. About 2008 and 9. All of a sudden, I started picking up wins left, right, and center. The switch just flipped, and I started getting it. So the name that a lot of people are going to know around here, T.J. Clark, he was my mentor. He was the guy that was running our cars. And the Clarks and us have had a family history for a while. We helped out Spencer, when he was in his bull ring career, helped get him into the West Series and eventually into the Xfinity Series. But one day, about 2008, the end of it, TJ sat me down. Hey kid, you ever consider doing this seriously? No. Well, and we sat and had about a 2-hour conversation, and by the end of it, he had convinced me to give it a shot. So 2009, I turned my first lap at an oval out here in the bull ring. And from there, moved into late models and into K&N cars pretty shortly, and then on up to ARCA trucks and here.
We'll come to the right here to. Or
Hey,
go ahead,
hey
Brendan.
Gluck, after all that, that's the one quote you want to pull on that, huh? Huh? Oh, okay, gotcha.
We'll go to Woody Kane.
Woody Kane with MRN. Spencer, since Brendan just talked about the stage racing, I wanted to get your thoughts on it as well, and how it's different at intermediate tracks versus a plate track, and a little bit about how GMS is really seeming to come on. I hate to use the phrase overnight success because I know it's not, but it really seems like you guys are coming on strongly.
In the NASCAR world, that's an overnight success, how quickly they've done this. I mean, it's bad to the bone what they've been able to accomplish.
You put the right people in the right places, and you'll be amazed what can happen. But no, I kind of agree with Brennan. It sort of took me aback at how much of a difference it made, the stages have made in the racing. But I guess that's the old adage: you put a ticking clock on something, and people start getting crazy. So I think it's been a real good benefit to the race, and I think people end up trying to find that last little extra 10% to get all they can in the last couple laps of a stage. And I think that's what the fans want to see, is us trying our guts out. We're going to get that last spot, hell or high water, when the stage ends. And to GMS, thank you for asking. It really has been a humbling and mind-blowing experience to watch how far we've come in such a short time, and I credit that all to people. I really do. Something my father ingrained into me from very early on in life: you can have all the best technology, all the best money, all the best this and that. It doesn't matter worth a damn if you don't have the right people behind it running it. And about the end of 2014, if I recall, we got our competition director, Mike Beam, on, and that man's been the single best thing we've done since we started racing. He really revolutionized our approach to how we're running week in, week out. And, like you said, it seems like an overnight success, but really, I think what you're seeing is the fruition of all the hard work that we had been putting in since the end of 14 to make ourselves into a competitive truck and now Xfinity team. So I can't give the guys and the people behind GMS enough credit. I tell them they're the ones that make these things go fast. I just hold the gas down and turn left. But it really is something to see, I have to tell you. I remember waking up the morning after Johnny won the championship last year, and all I could think to myself was 0 to championship in 36 months. That thought just kept running through my head over and over. So trust me, it's as mind-blowing to me as it is to you guys. I'm just so happy to be a part of it.
And to Brendan, talked with you a little bit about this last week about City Light Shine, but what's the backstory? How did you get from point A to point B?
Well, first, thank you, Mr.
I still don't know what that is. I want to know what that is, by the way.
City Light Shine is the new whiskey that we are making here in Las Vegas.
Ooh.
We are the first and only legal distillery in Las Vegas. Got to stress the legal part, if we're adding first to it. So, well, the backstory is that there's a certain individual that may have been an official for quite a few years that may have made a product once in a while that we used to taste, and may or may not. I will invoke my right to the Fifth Amendment. And my mother and my father really enjoyed actually liked it, and so about 2 years ago, my mom always says that I talk about my dad all the time, but never her. Well, my mother said, hey, I like this stuff, look into it. And I looked into the business, and for me, most of my life has always been about numbers. I like to do what I know. That's kind of been the Gaughan family motto for 50 years. But you also have to look at businesses in the end as numbers, and the numbers made sense. my partner moved out from North Carolina, moved to Las Vegas, and we have a distillery now up at Rainbow Warm Springs in Las Vegas, about 3 miles from the South Point, a mile from Southern Glazer, my distributor. And we are making a whiskey moonshine. It's now available at the South Point. It's available here at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Thank you to Mr. Powell, Marcus Smith, and all of SMI. It looks like we're going to have it at all the SMI tracks. So, Mr. Simonier, thank you. Of course, we all know Kentucky is one of my more favorite mile-and-a-half racetracks, and so it will be at the SMI tracks. We're really excited about that. It's a flavored whiskey. We have strawberry, blueberry, raspberry, original, clear, and we'll be doing some other flavors here and there. But it's at the South Point right now. Matter of fact, I just got a text about 30 minutes ago that the new shipment arrived to the loading dock this morning at 8:15 a.m. and they were loading up more product in the gift shop as I spoke. So it's here. It's going to be around. It's going to be around the country. It's on the race car. So thank you to my dad for basically nothing letting me steal it from him. So I better forgive. We all know the adage, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. So I took his name off the race car in a couple spots and put City Light Shine. I figured he's got enough publicity over the years.
Yeah, I'd say he's got some pretty good exposure.
Awesome. Any additional questions for either of these two? Yeah, we'll go right to the
tasting part. It's here. It is for sale right now at the concession stands at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We have 11 locations here at the Speedway. One in the Neon Garage, a couple in the concession stand, a couple in the Midway, a couple in the suite levels. It is all over the place.
Are you going to be unveiling this product at the nightclub and bar convention?
Am I going to be at the nightclub and bar convention right now?
Unveiling the product?
I still have an unfortunate day job at the moment, which takes a lot of my time. It's called racing.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Job.
A little bit of time. So I won't be able to do some of those. My partners will be there. We do have a flavor that we're going to make for the nightclubs here in Vegas that the mixologists at Southern Glazer really liked. It's a salted caramel. So we will probably debut that very soon at probably Dre's or something, one of our old friends that runs some nightclubs here.
We'll kick it over to Jeff Gluck.
Hi, the sensational Mr. Gluck.
The one, the only.
Wow, this is going to be really disappointing then. Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com. For Spencer, I'm wondering what your friends that you grew up with think of you being a race car driver, since you weren't on that path when you maybe were a kid.
As my brother loves to say, of all the professional sports you could have chosen, NASCAR. Really? NASCAR. But no, it was definitely a, forgive the pun, hard left turn for my career path, and a lot of my friends like to observe that. It's I think I'm definitely the one that ends up with the award of most unexpected career choice. But they love coming out, they love supporting me, and I know I've always got about a 40-strong rabid fan base out there anytime I'm here. So that's a pretty great feeling. I'm pretty sure, too, they set the record when I was K&N racing at the Bull Ring for drunkest section of fans. So I'm not sure if that's a highlight or low light, but it was pretty impressive to see nonetheless.
Any additional questions? All right, Spencer, Brendan, thanks for coming in, and good
Thanks,
luck
you
this
guys.
weekend.